Hello and welcome to Trekkie Tuesdays. This episode is The Ultimate Computer. This felt like a fairly color by numbers sort of episode, culminating in Kirk doing the thing he does when confronted with the machine. He has three things that he can do, right? He can seduce a woman, he can beat a man in hand-to-hand combat, and he can talk a computer into killing itself. Those are his things. And this time he breaks out the third one to deal with the fact that the supercomputer that's been placed in charge of the Enterprise has gone a little wonky for reasons that are never actually fully explained, other than that it was a prototype.
Well, it was kind of went wonky in part because it was based off of the engrams. Engrams? I don't know what that is, but the engrams of a human. And I feel like that is why we're supposed to think it's a problem. Because, like, Spock is all over it until it starts acting illogically, like a human would. And then he doesn't like it anymore.
I think it's notable that the scientist character is black. I think they play that up a little bit with Kirk walking in, saying that they talk up Dr. Daystrom without us seeing him, and then Kirk walks into a room that has the actor in it, but not foregrounded, and then he's saying, "Where's Daystrom?" Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I think that's notable because on the one hand, this is like pretty clearly a story about getting replaced by machines and losing one's job. I also couldn't help but wonder if it was like, what? Like, there's this black guy, and now he's sort of in a position of authority over Kirk, and like what his feelings on that subject are. I feel like that it was as much about white people dealing with the fact that they are now no longer always in control, but like sharing that and making a way for a new workforce that is more diverse and totally different from tradition. And I think having Daystrom,
Strum, I think.
Having him be played by a black guy is about that, and he's I think he does the part really well. I think he was one of the better actors in this episode. I thought he took a character that was a little flat and made it more interesting. I think it's sort of unfortunate that they just sort of wrote him off as crazy because he seemed pretty cool for a while, and then, rather than actually addressing like the interesting questions of like, do we really like want humans doing this job in space? Wouldn't it be better to have robots? And taking like that interesting question and kind of putting it on the back burner and just saying, well, of course we don't, because of reasons. And and as a result, they have to kind of just turn the guy crazy when he was like the super cool guy. But yeah, I thought that was a cool reveal. I imagine like that must have been a really big deal at that moment in time. And the fact that we're still talking about it probably means it's still a pretty big deal. So, yeah.
To put that in context, that actor's only other prominent role, according to the wiki that I read, was as Blackula.
What was that?
You've heard the term blaxploitation?
Yeah. So it was like a blaxploitation vampire film?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. We now have to watch this? Question mark.
Well, if we like it, we could always watch its sequel, Scream, Blackula, Scream.
What? Someone write in and tell us what that movie's like. Both of them. Oh my god.
I feel like the only other time I've heard reference to that was like the Futurama joke. Kid, there's only three real monsters: Dracula, Blackula, and Son of Kong.
Yeah, I liked this episode a little bit. Like, it wasn't perfect, it wasn't amazing. Um, but there were good things about it, and like, it didn't end the way I wanted it to, but I'm not sure exactly how I wanted it to end in a way that would allow them to keep moving forward with the plot. Because maybe the way I want it to end is that Captain Kirk is replaced, and that's clearly not going to happen. I thought it was interesting when McCoy said, like, the day my job is replaced. Anyway, it's just funny because we've watched Voyager, where
yes,
the
that's true.
Doctor is replaced by a hologram. You know, usual Kirk, Spock, and McCoy dynamic here. Spock is tentatively pro robots controlling ship.
But they kind of make him like he ends up feeling obligated to continually reassure the humans that he still believes.
Spock is like such a sweet guy. Like, he's just so like kind and just wonderful. And McCoy is just angry all the time for no reason. And Kirk is just confused and having a sad and wondering why he likes being captain. He's doing some like real self-exploration in this episode for all of like 30 seconds, and then decides that no, god damn it, he's awesome because his id told him so.
I think the main theme in this episode, apparently the original draft that was submitted was all about Dr. Daystrom, but then went through the inevitable rewrite to make it be more about Kirk. But so the result of that is the theme of looking ahead to the end result of what was just starting in the 60s of layoffs due to automation and like the whole job descriptions becoming obsolete and not being replaced by people with different skill sets as it had previously been the result of the Industrial Revolution, but just being replaced by machines. It's something that we still really struggle with today. What will be the role of humans when humans are still the point of human civilization, but not actually in charge of human civilization?
What do you mean by that?
So it seems inevitable that at some point computers will be more powerful than humans.
I mean, I think to some degree that's sort of true.
Yeah.
Like, no one human can know everything that's in an iPod. We don't even use iPods anymore, like iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah, but
we can still turn them off.
Yeah.
Sort of.
But we tend to equate being in charge with everybody serving you. But those are really two distinct concepts. The person with the most power is not necessarily, or the entity with the most power is not necessarily the entity that gets served. That seems to be inevitable in human civilization, but you could have an all-powerful computer that only exists to serve the interests of mankind. So like a
non-evil matrix,
right,
for example, where like we all are consenting to be in the matrix, and the matrix is continually improving itself to make us happier and feel more fulfilled in life, but we don't have any of the power that the Matrix does. Like, we can't decide what it looks like, because if one person could decide what it looks like, then one of us could be Hitler and make it evil, but instead the Matrix just continues to do good things.
Right.
Without anybody's particular control or power over it.
Yeah. And so that's what a lot of, I think, science fiction has been grappling with the question of whether that's a coherent vision of the world, whether humans could be truly happy in a world outside of their control.
Interesting. I feel like you're taking this like into the super far future. I think we can get even before that with this episode to an argument for minimum income. Like, I think a lot of people totally with great intentions right now are fighting for the increased minimum wage and or fighting for jobs to stay local and to not automate processes as much as possible sometimes. And that's being done because people care about their jobs and their livelihoods, and in a capitalist society, like, they have to do it. They have to have a job, and this is their only option. And until we have another option, I'm all for supporting those actions. But I personally think it would be great if we could have machines automate everything, and we have a minimum income where we all just have a basic middle-class life and can work for things that aren't to necessarily produce money or some sort of tangible good that will be sold later, but to produce what Dr. Daystrom here is thinking about, which is like, couldn't we have a greater role as humanity that isn't related to a job or a profession, but is just life and enjoying life? Maybe we're writing poetry, maybe we're creating great works of art or science or like community or like philosophy. Like, I think if we all were able to not worry about necessarily making an income, I think we could all do great things. I mean, even if that just means being better parents or better neighbors or whatever, solve inequality or something. I mean, like, I think there's like a real argument there, and I know there are plenty of people who think I'm totally nuts for that, but I actually really support at least some basic minimum income to start, and I think there's a growing body of evidence to support that, rather than minimum wage or welfare. Definitely instead of welfare to work programs. But yeah, I mean, that kind of thing would probably, I mean, we live in a globalized economy, and in the future we're living in a federation of planets. But I'm sure there are things that Kirk could do besides being a captain that would be really useful. And I think that's true for everyone on the starship. And I don't know. This also brings up for me this question of whether we should have astronauts. And like, I feel like everyone was really outraged when NASA decided to stop the shuttle program. And I mean, like, I definitely think astronauts are really cool. And I don't think we would be watching Star Trek if we both didn't think space exploration is amazing. But I definitely can see a good argument for, like, at least for a lot of the time, why do we have to put humans in space? Like, that's a lot of work. I'm not super read up on the subject, so, like, I'm sure there are way more knowledgeable people talking about this. Like, I feel like Neil deGrasse Tyson is really for putting people in space, and he seems like a really smart guy who's probably thought about this a lot more than I have. But it just seems to me like, if budgets are a concern, like, robots seem pretty cool to me. Like, I think we can get a lot of great data from robots, at least for a while. Although I don't like the idea that we're cutting budgets in space. But maybe we could keep the same budget and just put more robots out there. I don't know. Until we have, like, an alien to meet, it seems odd that we would risk human lives. That said, I'm totally going to watch that reality television show for when we go to Mars, because that'll be so cool. It looks excited for that.